Axl Rose has always been one of the most polarizing figures in rock and roll. A love him or hate him kind of dude, from his attitude and style to his voice. And his voice is the subject of this video. Back in the day, Axl had a growl and a grit to his voice that drove fans wild. That trademark Axl Rose rasp is why a lot of people consider him to be one of the best rock and roll frontmen of all time. But even in his prime, many critics were turned off by Axl's quote, out of control vocals, or that he sounded whiny. I couldn't disagree more there. In the late 80s and early 90s, more often than not, Axl Rose delivered on stage, singing most of his songs even better than on record. But fast forward to today in 2025, and Axl's voice is more polarizing than ever. I was inspired to make this video while watching the live stream of Ozzy's farewell show, Back to the Beginning. Guns N' Roses were one of the biggest names on the bill, and they did not disappoint. They hit the stage as a traditional 5-piece band. No keyboardist or extra flash, doing 4 Sabbath covers, and closing it out with Jungle and Paradise City. The GNR renditions of Junior's Eyes, Never Say Die, and Sabbath Bloody Sabbath were sensational. The band absolutely knocked it out of the park, putting that GNR vibe to some amazing Sabbath deep cuts. But if you watched that stream live, you saw the hundreds of comments rolling in talking about Axl's voice. It was pretty distracting from the show. Hell, just check out fan shot videos of the band from 2025 and look at the comments. You see the same thing. Axl sucks. He sounds like Mickey Mouse. Please retire. And there's a ton of nuance that needs to be understood to give a truly objective opinion of his voice today. Because I understand, he does sound like Mickey Mouse when he uses his mid-range falsetto voice, which he does use predominantly through most songs. There have been moments over the years where I wished Axl would just hang it up, or at least stop touring so extensively. There's been those times where I've cringed. But where he is right now, in August of 2025, is honestly, objectively very impressive. But I still do understand why fans just can't listen to his voice. Just let me explain. For starters, you have to compare Axl to his peers, those classic rock singers that are still touring today. And I'd say all in all, he ranks right around the middle of the pack. Guns N' Roses are still performing 3-hour concerts in 2025, and no one feels the weight of such an extensive set than Axl. GNR's catalog has some of the most vocally demanding songs in rock history. I mean, Axl is 63 years old and he's still attempting There Was a Time, Coma, and then of course there's Welcome to the Jungle and You Can Be Mine every night. These songs are a bitch to sing properly. The only other artist from the 20th century that I can still think of that plays shows this long is Springsteen. So you just have to give Axl his props there. He's in charge. He could phone it in for 1 hour every night and the shows could just be 1 hour. But no, he's doing marathon shows every night for the fans. He uses that falsetto voice to carry his way through the majority of the songs, using those raspy screams strategically throughout the songs to ensure that he doesn't run out of stamina. And he's still running around the stage like it's 1993, and he's 63 years old. He can't even stand still performing each song, doing everything that he's capable of to entertain the fans. You just have to respect that, or you're a troll. You look at Vince Neil of Motley Crue. He hasn't even been able to sing his own songs live since the damn 90s. And today, he doesn't even attempt to sing half of the songs. He just lets his background singers and the fans carry the songs. It's embarrassing. But that's probably better than the alternative, him actually singing. It's impossible to even make out the words that Vince is trying to belt out most of the time. And then there's Jon Bon Jovi, who also hasn't had his voice in well over a decade. He can't even enunciate his own lyrics properly while singing anymore. That part of his vocal ability is just gone. And just forget about him getting to the high notes. But Axl, he can still reach his high notes. And he can still carry these tunes. You can tell that he takes immense pride in singing his songs the way that he intended them to be sung. He will put 110% effort into it, just to squeeze out that little bit of rasp that he has left in his tank. And he does that because millions of fans appreciate him for it. And then there's David Lee Roth, another guy who lost his voice in the 90s. If you've seen any of his vocal performances from the 21st century, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Axl Rose, at 63 years old, does not belong in the same sentence as David Lee Roth, John Bon Jovi, or Vince Neil. You never see Axl just give lines to the crowd, unless it's completely called for. The man pushes through the end of Coma, the ending of You Could Be Mine, damn near every show. It probably disgusts him watching Vince Neil try to hack it on stage these days. Axl also never has problems enunciating his lyrics. That's something that a lot of people take for granted. He still performs all of the same vocal melodies and fast-paced verses, true to the source material. I certainly appreciate that. His voice is probably most comparable to that of Brian Johnson of acdc. He's 77 years old now, but when he was Axl's age in 2011, their voices compare pretty similarly, in that most fans loved and appreciated what they were bringing to the stage, even though there was that clear drop-off from their prime years, which is to be expected, of course. I feel like Axl and Brian's voices have kind of taken a similar trajectory over their careers. These rock and roll icons, most of them just didn't sing in a proper way. Their way of belting out these raspy screams are just not a natural thing to do. It's to be expected that they won't be able to, quote, fire on all cylinders into the second halves of their careers. But Steven Tyler of Aerosmith, he is an exception. The way his voice is aged like fine wine needs to be studied. He's 77 years young, and I say young because if you witnessed his vocal performance at Ozzy's Back to the Beginning show, if you know, you know. Fucking rock god. But like I said, Steven Tyler is an anomaly. You just can't blindly compare Axl to him, just to put Axl down. That's some low-hanging fruit type shit. Trust me, I've been critical of Axl's voice over the years, or decades really. We all remember Bridge School 2012, and Rock in Rio 2011.
You know, I'm really getting fucking pissed.
It's hard to imagine that those concerts were 14 years ago, and I've seen some more of his recent performances. Throughout 2018 through now, there have been some real stinkers from Axl. Those poor vocal performances usually occur early in the legs of the tour, as Axl seemingly needs to warm up as the early shows go along. I remember watching one, I think it was Berlin 2018, and Axl just couldn't get through some of the songs. It was cringe-inducing. You felt bad watching it. But a few shows later, he'd be in way better form. And I'm not excusing that from Axl. Fans are shelling out hundreds of dollars to see GNR these days. They deserve to see a vocalist who has been properly training their voice to be ready for a multi-million-dollar global stadium tour. But those moments where Axl is truly down bad and at that Vince Neil level, you can count those instances on your hands. Maybe even one hand. Some fans want Axl to predominantly use his lower register voice and retire that Mickey Mouse falsetto that he often uses, and I think that there is some potential in that idea. It wouldn't sound right just overusing that low voice, but strategically using it on certain verses of songs would definitely be great to see. That voice presumably is more natural for Axl, and therefore it should help him with his stamina. He's done this a little bit more in the last few years, and I'm all for it. But I'm not going to act like it always sounds amazing. It does just sound a lot more powerful and clear than that falsetto, so it is refreshing to hear. It breathes a little new life into the songs. But, like I mentioned before, I think that Axl takes a lot of pride in singing his songs true to the records. He would rather challenge himself and use that falsetto voice, actually singing the songs like he used to, than just using that lower register voice, and more so just raising his voice into the mic, talking and shouting, as opposed to singing. I guess the point of this whole video is to kind of stick up for Axl a little bit. It seems like most of the people that attack him online are just going for those low-hanging fruit comments. And that's fine, those people just clearly aren't true fans of GNR. He's performed damn near 1,000 times on stage, and most of those shows have taken place in the second half of his career. And in every single one of those shows, he laid it all out on stage. He spontaneously danced and ran around the stage, belting his lungs out for the fans, every single time. In modern times, he has to preserve his voice. He has to use that weaker falsetto voice to make sure he can get through these 3-hour sets. Remember acdc and that awesome rasp he was using? Yeah, well, that might have done a big number on his voice overall, because he has never touched those levels since then. And that's not just by choice. You can tell that Axl gives 110% on stage for GNR. And for some fans, it's more than enough just seeing Axl happy and smiling on stage. It's clear that he's broken free from a lot of the demons that seemed to haunt him earlier in his career. And I feel like a lot of fans kind of look at him like a parent looks at their kid, and they're just kind of happy to see him thriving and happy on stage. And of course, those fans are going to look at him through a kind of Axl Rose tinted glasses. And that's completely valid for fans to feel that way. I have no problem with that. Is it an objective way to grade his vocals? No. But it's how they want to be a fan. And you can be a fan however you want to be a fan. If you actually attend a modern GNR concert, you're going to come away from it being immensely entertained. It's this weird trope online, but Axl does sound a bit better live and in person, compared to how he does on the videos online, or the ones that you recorded on your phone at the concert. I think that's due to his voice kind of being buried in the mix a little bit, as they do have two keyboardists on stage with them, so that Mickey Mouse falsetto kind of gets buried in the mix, but then when he kicks it up for the raspy screams, they come through nicely. But his stage presence is still there 100%. You watch him and you think, damn, that's a rock god, live and in the flesh. If you do decide to see GNR one more time before they truly hang it up, I strongly recommend general admission and getting yourself on the rail, right in front of the stage. It's the absolute best way to experience the show. You are so immersed in the show, but that is an all-day commitment, waiting in line and all that. I plan on making a video breaking down Axl's voice year by year, starting as early as 1983, those rapid-fire demos, and going year by year, using the source material, the albums, and his live performances. As fans know, his voice changes year by year. It's quite the fascinating thing to me. Some changes are subtle, as others are more grand. His voice from 1991 to 1993, totally different. But that doesn't compare to the difference of his 1993 voice compared to 2001. That's just another stratosphere. It all really fascinates me, and I really want to chronologically break it all down. So let me know in the comments if that would be a good video. Peace.